Could future human civilizations be watching us from spacecrafts in the sky? Probably not. You can theorize time travel using time quantum physics, which revolves around probability. For people to go back in time, we would need to already have a time machine. A British astronaut recently made headlines when he mentioned a notion that suggests UFOs in our skies could be future people peering back at us. Tim Peake, a distinguished test pilot and the first British astronaut with the European Space Agency ESA, was answering the question with skepticism and good humor. He spent more than half a year in space, including time on the International Space Station ISS. But it got me thinking, time travel is an iconic storytelling mechanism. It's difficult to pinpoint the exact first time travel tale, but many people cite H.G. Wells' book The Time Machine as the first to describe a time machine. Time had previously been suggested to be telescoped by supernatural rather than mechanical means in tales like Rip Van Winkle. Since Wells' seminal book was published more than a century ago, time travel fiction has practically grown into a separate genre. People appear to travel through time without using any technology and disappear into parallel universes or pocket dimensions, where time is different. Someone can sometimes vanish through a fissure and then come back years later, as in Stephen King's short story, The Jaunt. Star Trek's Captain Picard lives a lifetime inside an anomaly in the all-time best episode, Inner Light. For them, the time has passed as usual, but in their pocket dimension, time did not exist. In fiction, people are inventive in how they dismiss time travel. But how would it work in real life? Even so, could it? So how would we start to explain the notion that humans from the future are coming to visit us by going back in time? You might believe that there are several unanswered questions surrounding the possibility of time travel, many of which would likely be considered fatal to any case in favor of the possibility. That's not wrong, but there is one fundamental question that lies at the heart of all other types of ideas, and in essence distinguishes those whose conduct throughout research from those who occasionally daydream. In terms of useful scientific work, we can fantasize, but it's not the same as a peer-reviewed study on quantum physics. The fundamental question relates to directionality. Almost all reliable experts concur that if time travel is conceivable, it is most likely to occur in a direction that advances time, thus speeding the way that time already moves. And there are some instances where the cosmos seems to time travel in this form by itself, such as when time moves more slowly for someone in space than it does for someone on Earth. The physics that could eventually lead to time travel is evident all around us. But is it even feasible for us to go back in time? That calls for some additional gymnastics. Fiction that jumps around in time arbitrarily is all around us, but it's plausible that the same processes that allow for one direction also allow for the other, and vice versa. Some hypotheses of backward time travel involve wormholes, with one side that is stationary and the other that is moving extremely fast, causing some sort of temporal anomaly. Of course, quantum physics also exists. Quantum physicist Fabio Costa works at the University of Queensland in Australia. He co-authored a paper titled Reversible Dynamics with Closed Time Curves and Freedom of Choice in 2020 with a student. They described the grandfather paradox, a time-traveling thought experiment in the paper. What if you went back in time to kill your grandfather? If so, you would have never lived and could not have murdered your grandfather. So what if going back in time was feasible, as it appears to be conceivable within certain frameworks of quantum mechanics? Could the contradiction be avoided? Costa and his team discovered that a free agent on this journey may exercise free will without necessarily changing that they would discover once they return to the present. It's possible that the grandfather paradox won't cause any issues at all. And I had a hunch that someone researching the subject would be interested in my question about distant civilizations spying on us. In an email, Costa notes that the inability to travel back in time before the creation of the first time machine is a common element of all time travel theories. In a way, opening two doors, one in the present and one in the past, allows one to travel through time. Only if someone has unlocked the door to the past can you go back in time. Therefore, future visitors are not permitted unless a time machine has already been created, and no one knows about it. That suggests that in some way, time travel is similar to the start of a romance. You start a mental timer when you meet someone new, and if you stay together, you pass milestones while remembering your first dates together. You could essentially go back and relive the date if you wanted to, excluding the case where your first date served to complete the assembly of your new time machine. After all this time, you can tell your past self to skip the garlic bread. It seems logical that they wouldn't broadcast it just yet if someone had created the time machine, because there wouldn't be much to show until more time had passed. However, it's difficult to believe that anyone could keep it a secret for more than a week or so. It would already be a big thing if you could send someone back for a week. People would still want to try to disarm mass shooters, let alone more commonplace actions like signing poor contracts, even if Costa's research is correct that the agent in the past may not have much affected whatever has happened in the present. One significant school of thought on time travel makes use of many worlds, which holds that choices have an impact on various realities. You merely approach a different version of yourself from a parallel planet when you go back in time. Another theory claims that there may only be one reality or that there is no shared reality at all. But those paradoxes cannot exist because of the probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics. To kill your grandfather, for instance, might be possible in the past, but the minuscule possibility that you would miss every shot would inevitably occur. So if we were observing future humans flying in friendly skies and abiding by the prime directive, the quantum probability could be able to explain why we never clearly see them or find their spacecraft. That raises the issue of where the time machine is. These ships are passing through and taking off from somewhere unless it is also in space. We could never have created the contraption in the sky if it had to be operational right now for us to entertain future visitors. That's another small paradox, but it won't likely stop human minds from creating more stories about time travel. Alright guys, that wraps up our video for today. If you enjoyed watching and you found it useful, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more.